Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Avarice Podcast. We're going to take a big old bite of the sausage today and dig into a movie commentary on American Beauty from 1999, starring Kevin Spacey and a whole gamut of other people. Annette Bening, Thora Birch, Wes Bentley, Mina Savari, Chris Cooper. It's a star-studded ensemble cast. Actually, it's kind of a subtle star-studded ensemble cast. It works really well, but there's not that many blockbuster marquee stars in there now that I'm looking at it. It's just a really well put together character actors. Of course, the path for that is led by Kevin Spacey, and the elephant in the room for me during this movie is going to be the semi-recent accusations made against Kevin Spacey regarding sexual harassment. Allegedly, there was some stuff involving like teenage boys and touching people's cocks and feeling legs. I don't know all the details. To my knowledge, at this point, it's still all alleged. He hasn't been convicted of anything. Nothing's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, as far as I know. So I'm going to acknowledge it here at the beginning that I'm aware of it. I don't condone anything like that, obviously. I know that it's a serious issue. At this point, he's innocent until proven guilty, I would say. And I'm not trying to take sides. That's just how the law works. So I'm going to proceed from here. I might make some kind of tongue-in-cheek comments, some jokes, say some shit that I don't really mean related to that later. Who knows when a reference is going to pop into my head that I might think is funny. So up front here, I just wanted to say that I am aware of it, address it, say that I'm not condoning it or anything. And at this point, I'm just going to separate the man from his art and watch this movie, because the unfortunate part of the matter is it's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's basically a perfect movie. I haven't watched it for a bit, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a flaw in it. Now, the subject matter may rub you the wrong way, but that doesn't mean that it's not a great movie. When it came out, I think it was a bit misunderstood at first, but then once it really got a chance to sink in and people really got a chance to understand it, it resonated more and more. This character, the Lester Burnham character, is a real fucking guy. That is a real person. And honestly, I think that he is an element of all of us. I think that almost everybody, barring super baller, trust fund kids, hit the lottery, extreme outliers, damn near all of us can relate to Lester Burnham in some small way. And I think that is what leads to it being such a fucking memorable character. Like, first of all, nobody's the hero in the entire movie. They're real people. Good and bad. Pros and cons. They have talents and abilities. They also have flaws and skeletons in their closet. And that's it's not this polished up perfect thing. And I get that that's not some people's cup of tea. Some people are so fed up with the harsh nature of reality that when they sit down to watch a movie, they just want something lighter. They want something, it doesn't even necessarily need to be lighter, just less based in reality, less depressing, less heavy, something in the fantasy world, some mindless comedy. And I can completely understand that. I get that way sometimes too, depending on just how taxing of a day or week I've had, what's been going on in my mind lately. If I don't have the synapses firing, if I can't dedicate the brain capacity to paying attention to something truly deep, then I'll go that route too. I can throw on a Harry Potter movie and just look at the colors and shit and or watch The Waterboy and laugh at the stupid jokes. I'm perfectly fine with that. But my ultimate favorite, my shit, the stuff I go to the most is art that's painted with a dark brush. That's just what I like. Some psychiatrist would probably have a field day with that. I've never really tried to dig too deep into it and figure out why that is. It just is the case. That's why I like The Wire. That's why I like The Sopranos. That's why I like this. That's why I like certain music. That's why I like Leonard Cohen. I've just always liked... I like that term. I heard Joe Rogan say it to Everlast once on his podcast. Is you like to make art with a dark brush. And it was just so spot on. The perfect way to describe it. That I've kind of adopted it as my own. Anyway, my coffee was brewing at the beginning of the podcast. It's now done. I'm sitting here at the coffee table. I've got the PS4 fired up. My bong is at the ready. I'm going to take a couple hits, and then I will give you a countdown to when I start the film if you're going to watch along with me. I am watching this on my PlayStation 4. It's just the home release version. I don't know if there was an unrated or anything. We didn't really trifle with shit like that too much back then. It became almost a requisite somewhere around 2000, 2002, somewhere in that era. Almost every movie that was rated R, once it came out on DVD, would have an unrated version. That was basically par for the course. But I don't know that there was anything in this movie that would have required that or mandated it. It was usually more movies along the lines of like raunchy comedies or gory horror flicks that would have to edit stuff out to meet the MPAA's requirements. Then they were able to put it out on home video release with all that stuff thrown back in under the unrated banner. And unrated kind of became like a marketing term for a while. Anyway. It actually can get a bit confusing because when I was a kid, excuse me, we weren't necessarily broke or poor. I always had clothes. I always had food. I always had shoes. We never got evicted. There was never any of those concerns. But there were certain things like going to movies at the movie theater that we just did not do. And so, but we rented the fuck out of movies. Or once, this is going to go deep for a second. Back in the VHS days, films would get released for rental months before they would get released for consumer purchase. So it was kind of a step process. It went from the movie theater to the drive-in to the video store to consumer release to cable. And there was significant gaps in time between all those thresholds to allow each market to make its profits. So you had incentive to go ahead and rent the VHS and watch it because it was going to be a few months before you could buy it. It was going to be maybe even 9 months before it was on cable, and it had already probably been a few months since you were able to see it in the theater. Once DVDs came along, you were then had the ability to purchase the DVD the same day that it became available for rent, which was a huge revelation. I think that it gets overlooked. It's kind of a niche thing, but if you were balls deep into the renting movies game back then, that kind of became a big deal and changed the game. Because at that point, it was probably like $3.50 to rent a movie, or you could buy the DVD for $20. So if you were positive you were going to like the movie, or at least pretty sure you were going to like it, and would end up wanting to own it someday, you just skip one step and go ahead and buy the DVD and don't rent the movie. which may be part of what contributed to video stores' decline and something that gets overlooked because the internet is obviously the main culprit. But that period of time where you could only rent it, that was the only way you could see it, was now gone because you could buy it. So a lot of the time at my house, when a movie came out, say it was, an American Pie movie or fucking, I don't know, Jeepers Creepers, if there was an unrated version of the DVD, that's usually what we bought. And sometimes that would be the first time I'd ever seen the movie. And I would watch it multiple times because we owned it. So that becomes the only version of the film I know. Whereas people who saw it in the theater may have seen an entirely different ending. Like, sometimes shit gets really changed around. Rob Zombie's Halloween is an example of that. I don't think I've ever seen the theatrical cut. I think I've only seen the unrated version. And I think that is something he worked out. I think that was a strategy or a plan. I feel like the cut that got released in theaters got thrown in the garbage can after that, and every type of physical media release thereafter was the unrated version. And I didn't go see that in theaters because I had been burned by Halloween Resurrection, and I didn't want to go spend my money and get my hopes up to go to a movie theater to see another disappointment like that. Plus, I was in high school, and actually I was just fresh out of high school. You're drinking, you're hanging out with the girls, you're enjoying your freedom. I wasn't so much tied to sitting on my couch or going to movie theaters and watching movies like I am now today with a kid and a family, or wife and a family. I don't know why I phrased it that way. I have a dog too. And a 3-hour tour. All right, I've been rambling for way too long. Anybody who's not a regular listener and just wanted to listen to commentary on American Beauty is going to be pissed at this point. I'm also wasting runtime. This is a 2-hour movie. It's going to be a bit of a marathon. Not quite a marathon, but like a solid half marathon. As a viewer, sometimes you don't always notice the variations in runtime, but unless the movie is poorly made and feels too long or feels too short. But once you start doing commentaries on them or something like that, and you have to speak over the entire film's runtime, you really start to feel that extra half hour. It's weird. Hour and a half can go by lickety split, but then you're like, fuck, is this thing over yet? I doubt I'm going to feel that way with this movie. It is a bit intimidating to look ahead and think that I'm going to have to come up with shit to say for the next 2 hours. But that's part of why I watch the movies, so that it's this flow of shit coming at me constantly. I know that I have enough love for this movie, and I think there's enough subtle detail and interesting shit to talk about in it to carry me through. But I never know till I get in there. So try it out, man. Okay. I am pressing play in 3, 2, 1, play. I did the countdown with my fingers. Nobody can fucking see me. I'm a loser. Baby, so why don't you kill me? This song only has 6 words. 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 So we got the little DreamWorks shit coming on here. If you hear a little bit of clanking around, I'm going to reload my bong just preemptively. Get prepared for the future. And we got this little cutscene. She was such a cute little girl and grew up to look so goth and psycho and bitchy. I'm not saying she's still not cute, but she was an adorable, like, fucking baby doll of a little girl. She looked like a child's doll, like she was constructed in a factory. That sounds weird. I'm not explaining this correctly. Anyway, she was in All I Want for Christmas, a couple other movies when she was a little kid. Kind of a child actor star. Other than this, I don't know what she was in once she grew up. She kind of fell out of it. And I think part of what contributed to that was her change in look. She didn't really have a Hollywood-friendly appearance anymore.
This is my neighborhood.
I missed the My Name's Lester Burnham.
This is my street. This
Is my house.
I'm 42 years old. In less than a year, I'll be dead.
In less than a year. So this film takes place over the course of almost an entire year.
Of course, I don't know that yet.
The way he narrates this with the music over the top,
In a way,
and he has this sound of defeat in his voice as he's saying it. Like, he's just going through the motions. It's so mundane.
look at me, jerking off in the shower. This
And
is the high point of my day.
it's relatable,
All downhill.
but not necessarily in a friendly way. A lot of the stuff that they show him doing, or the thoughts that he expresses, you can relate to, but they're not necessarily thoughts that you would be proud to have. So I think that's another reason that this film gives people mixed feelings. It can make you uncomfortable watching it.
That's our next door.
It honestly can, but it's so goddamn good.
His lover, Jim.
And this movie is something that I can go back to as a reminder of what I want to avoid. 10 years from now, whatever, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to feel like I'm living in a black and white newspaper clipping. I don't, like, it's just so bleh. He doesn't express himself. He seems to have nothing he enjoys doing, no hobbies. He's just a slave to this life that he's attached to now. He's just got his day in, day out routine, and he's just gonna walk that path till he dies. His daughter is an accurate depiction of a teenager, at least at the time. She is confused. She's very self-aware of her body and body conscious.
Both my wife and daughter
Just trying to make sense of her physicality and
I have lost some.
changing hormones and coming into adulthood and all that. The wife is kind of the hard-ass drill sergeant,
But you know what?
and he's turned himself into a bitch boy. He's just bit his tongue until he had none. And you can see it come out in these little passive-aggressive, snarky interactions with these customers on the phone they're not face-to-face.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Who is Tamlin? Does he exist? Because he doesn't ever seem to come in.
That's an element of the internet that leads to arguments and people being cunty with each other. You're not face-to-face. You don't see their reaction, and they're not right in front of you to smack you if they don't like it. And that's you get a hint of that when he's on the phone there.
For you, Brad, I got 5.
That's one of my all-time favorite lines from any movie. For you, Brad, I've got 5. Oh, I say that a lot. This movie seems to be quieter than other ones.
Mr. Romano used the company MasterCard to pay for that hooker. She used the card numbers and stayed at the St. Regis for, what was it, like 3 months? That's unsubstantiated.
This is the breaking point that almost everybody feels maybe multiple times in their life. At your workplace, in your family, whatever it is, you see shit happen and people just kind of sweep it under the rug and ignore it. And then there comes a point where you can't take it anymore. And it just you have to come out with it or be done with it. Like, I can't be a part of this anymore. I'm going over to do my thing because you guys are sucking my life force out. And this too, he's dedicated all this time of his life to this job working for someone else, and now this guy that appears to be 15 years younger than him is coming in and telling him that he has to essentially write an essay spelling out why he deserves to have his job. That's effectively what they're making him do. He's at the mercy of these other people. His wife berates him. He has to defend his place at work. His daughter won't give him the time of day. She's moody. Everything in this house looks like it's his wife's doing. It doesn't look like he has a place there at all. There's no remnants of his existence there. Looks like a goddamn home and garden ad. I grew up around a lot of like that. Like, shit needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be in order. Don't touch it. Clean it all the time. And that may be part of why I'm not that way at all. I really don't give a fuck. If I can live in it, if it's livable, I'm cool. Like, shit should be reasonably put away and kind of organized, but that's mostly because it's easy for me to find. Like, once you grow up, you kind of realize that there's a reason to organize things, and it's because it's serviceable to you. It's not necessarily just to be a hard ass and so it looks tidy. It's because you start to accumulate so many things that when you need to find one of them, you need to know exactly where it is. And it's easier to do that if everything has its proper place, because then that's where you go to look first, instead of having to look through the entirety of your things every time you need to find one individual unique thing. So, I mean, it's not like I just throw my clothes all over the floor and shit. I hang them up, and there's some organization. My tools are hanging on the wall in the garage. But as far as, like, I will take my clothes off and just leave them by the side of the bed. And then I'll grab them and put them in the dirty clothes when I feel like it. I'm not going to have a heart attack over that shit sitting there. There can be a little bit of dust on my entertainment center. I'm not gonna trip over it. There's more important things in life. And cleaning was always a bitch to me, because it's like, no matter how good of a job you do, it's gonna need done again very soon. So it's like, why are we tripping over keeping it so clean? Let's just clean it a little bit less often. Leave some free time for other shit. Who cares? You're gonna die. You're gonna die someday. That's partially the message of this movie. He gets to this point in his life before he decides to finally start living. And then it's over. And this fucking semi-creeper, also very relatable, Ricky Fitz character. He's up there with one of my favorite characters from any movie of all time, too. He's not as high on the list as Lester is, but he is up there. There's a couple of kind of cut the shit things, like the floating bag being the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. I've spent my entire life waiting for me to be, like, when I was a kid and I saw that, I was like, oh, I just don't understand it because I'm not old enough. There must be some piece of this I'm missing that I will gain, once I go through high school and I become an adult. Maybe I will have some insight into what he's trying to convey there. And I'm now 31 years old, and I still have no fucking idea what he's talking about during that video of that bag. Anyway. Carolyn. She comes off, I can relate to her too. It's the beauty of the show, because she comes off as a hard ass, but she's just trying to get shit done. And that's me sometimes. Like, I get in my groove and I'm trying, so if you keep coming at me, I might snap at you, because I'm trying to get my thoughts focused on this one thing, and every time I get 2 minutes into it, you interrupt them. And so then when I come back to it, I have to go, wait, where was I? And I have to backtrack a little bit, go through the steps again. And just as I'm starting to break new ground, another thing comes. That will start to frustrate the fuck out of me. I'm an only child. I didn't grow up with a lot of attention. I'm used to living it inside my head. You gotta let me do it occasionally, god damn it. I'm not an only child. But I was until I was 8 years old. So effectively, like, it's not like when I was 9 and my sister was 1, we were having a lot of heart-to-heart conversations. And my parents were young. They both had to work. There wasn't a lot of time. Like, considering the circumstances, it worked out remarkably well for me. I gotta be honest. I can also relate to this scene of her because I used to manage an apartment complex, and I hated it because I felt like I was selling something for a price I wouldn't want to pay. Like, the bitch of, she's selling a house, so that's slightly different, but not really, because apartments, houses, real estate, they are never as nice as the day they are built, unless they get entirely remodeled. But what I mean by that is it's fresh construction, the carpet's brand new, all the woodwork, the wall, like the paint, everything, all that's brand new. The countertops are brand new, the appliances are brand new. The fucking toilets, the sinks, the showers, everything is brand new, right? And everything degrades from that point forward. Yet, due to the market, especially around here in Portland, the price steadily rises, even though the actual physical property you would think would be worth less, if that makes sense. Because utility-wise, superficially, appearance-wise, and when it comes to being like modern, it's sliding downhill, and that only continues. 20 years after they're built, they're twice as expensive, and everything's obsolete in them. And then you'll replace the stove or the fridge because something goes out, and then you start ending up with all this mismatched shit, and the carpet's 5 years old and got some stains on it, and the linoleum's been changed in the kitchen but not in the bathroom. And I feel like an important thing when you're selling or trying to lease apartments, whatever the case is, you need to have confidence in the product. Look at how baggy their basketball uniforms are. That's a blast from the past. It happens subtly over time, but basketball shorts fit now. They used to be damn near over your knee. Fuck, what was I talking about before that? Oh, that sucks. Those fucking basketball uniforms made me lose my train of thought.
Well, what makes you so sure she wants us to be there? Does she ask us to come?
Oh, when you're selling, you need to have confidence in the product that you're selling. You need to feel like you are providing a value for the price you're charging, and like, you need to have an excitement about talking about it. It needs to feel like it's worth your time. Like, taking somebody into a little fucking apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, and telling them, yeah, this is $700 a month and you got to pay for your water, sewer, and garbage and all this shit. Like, I wouldn't pay that. I wouldn't, like, it was very hard for me to be able to give them like a sales pitch because I didn't have anything about the situation that got me excited. And then later, that was when I was a leasing agent. When I became a manager, I worked at a place that was just cheap apartments, just one of the cheapest places in town. Because of that, low budget, you don't get to make the changes you want to make, and inherently, it's a bit seedier. I had way more complaints. The cops came to my property way more times. I was in a way busier area. I had a bar right across the street. I had a grocery store and a mini mart right across. Like, it's a high traffic, kind of just more bullshit going on. And then you have people who are above you or running the show. This is where he becomes enthralled with her, which is oddly prophetic considering what he's been accused of now. I know she's like a high school girl, but he's been accused of tickling the undercarriages of some boys in the shower. I don't know if it was a shower. That was Sandusky. So then the apartment thing, the people above me would come in and like grade the condition of my apartments, grade how well I was able to keep them filled, that kind of shit. When it's like, okay, I don't have the money to fix these places up because of the prices I'm charging. I get a shitty clientele, the pieces of shit for the most part, and because of noise complaints and shit, I have to kick them out and then refix the place back up. And I have to pay for a shitload of garbage removal because they leave all their shit there. Like, this is this system doesn't, I don't see how this works for anybody. Is the owner making money? He better be, because he's not running the property well, in my opinion. Like, they never wanted to spend money on everything. I mean, on anything. They tell you that it was time to replace the roof and then give you enough money to do half of it. And I fucking hate fighting those kind of battles. Life's too short for me to argue. This isn't, if it was my property, maybe I'd be more interested in it and I'd have a more strategic approach, but I think you got to spend money to make money. And I always thought you pour more money into it and you keep it nice and top of the line and you charge a premium for that. So you're at the higher end of the market, you're providing a higher end product, you actually can distinguish yourself from the competition, and your margins are way better. But they wanted to go with this low rent shit. And they did shit like give me a property inspection the day after the snow melted. We had been closed for 3 days, had like a foot of snow. The day the snow melts, they come and grade my property and tell me there's garbage and shit in my parking lot. It's like, no shit. When there's snow on the ground, people just throw stuff in the snow and leave it there. And then the snow melts and all of a sudden you find it everywhere. And we have to have time to clean it up. You cunts. Anyway, I've been ignoring the movie. That was slightly related to the movie because of her real estate agent shit. I wonder what it is about her that gets him so sprung. Like, is it that, does he look at her as innocent? Is he projecting some type of image of perfection on her, like this Barbie doll, Little Miss America thing? That is probably true. But this part's hard for me to relate to. I'm 10 years younger than he is, and I can't imagine going to a high school thing like that.
It's the weirdest thing.
And tripping over my tongue with it, like, no, there's no fucking way.
And I'm just now waking up.
I can't even imagine what I would talk to her about. Like, she has no life experience. She hasn't been through the struggle. She isn't in the game. But so oh, you want to go to the mall and then Jamba Juice and nice. My new backpack is for hurting my shoulders because my teacher's been making me take my chemistry book home, and I asked him why he can't let us read in class and then do the workbook at home, and he said that the class time is for lectures, and so my mom's gonna take me to get a new backpack and we're probably gonna get one of those rolling backpacks, and kids are gonna make fun of me, but I'm gonna get some new platform Skechers. And then that'll counteract it. So when they're looking down at my rolling backpack, they'll see my new my new platform Skechers, and they'll give me compliments on them. You want to fuck? I just can't see it. I can understand the concept of like seeing somebody and all of a sudden being like enthralled, like, what the fuck? Holy shit. And maybe having them living rent-free in your head for a while, but not a girl her age. So
I really have shot at being a mom, which is great.
But it's not so off the rails. I don't know.
I really think it'll happen for you.
To be honest, I can't, well, no, I can't say that either.
Happen does. Eventually.
I can't say that I overlook her age when watching the film, because that is a major part, but it's more a reflection on him and the issues in his head. And I don't necessarily know the fact that she's in high school has anything to do with it. I think it was just the access in the purview of his life. He doesn't really see anybody else. I mean, he goes to work, he goes home. So it just so happened that she flipped the switch for him, but it could have possibly been anybody. I don't think he has like a younger girl thing going on. So maybe that's why it plays better. It doesn't feel like a pedophile thing. It definitely feels like sexual harassment though. And she's young. I guess that is where her age comes into it. She plays along with him and everything, and I don't think she realizes the stakes of the game she's playing. Young girls will do that. They'll front about how much experience they have, and they'll tease, and they'll throw out innuendos, but they're really just running game. They don't necessarily know what they're talking about or have that level of experience. They just want to seem mature and cool. And when it comes time to lay your cards on the table, sometimes it can be intimidating. Men are guilty of that too. The old, just so you know, this is my first time. Right before you're about to do it. Could there be any more disappointing news for a woman to hear? Right as he's about to penetrate you? Just so you know, this is my first time. And she's like, oh, fuck. All right. Guess we'll get it on the next one. I star 69 and I called you back. Ironic, right? 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife. Now isn't it ironic? I don't really understand Ricky's obsession with filming things and why he is so enthralled by her. It's like a weird duality of beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but also like a lust kind of irrational attachment to someone when you don't know them at all. Okay, is Ricky Muslim?
I'm sorry, I must have forgotten.
The way he dresses combined, they make sure to subtle, I mean, it's not even really subtle. They make sure to put in there he doesn't eat bacon. And he seems to have contrary beliefs to his dad, but he also seems to be very much about kind of coexisting. And basically that's it. But the way he dresses and the denying the bacon, I've always wondered, is he Muslim? And I'm not making a judgment on it one way or another. I'm just wondering why it's in there. And if that's not the case, what are they hinting at? Because he's definitely dressed like a Jehovah's Witness. Or later she calls him a Bible salesman. Look at him. And the way he says, Mom, I don't eat bacon. Is it just because he doesn't like bacon and I'm reading too much into it? But if that's the case, why put it in the movie? How does it contribute to his character that he doesn't like bacon? This is a very dense movie, where basically every interaction means something. There's not a lot, if any, filler. Everything is there to tell you something about one of the characters or the story or the scene. In the 90s, see, now we've got everything is fucking racist, everything is sexist, everybody is homophobic, everything is oppressive, so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that's not there at all, but it's not there nearly to the extent that everyone implies it is, or at least that the people who are with the loudest voices imply it is. But in the 90s, this is what we dealt with our parents and grandparents. The gay thing was the big thing. I never did this and just came out and vulgarly agreed, but basically I listened to some of the idiocy coming out of the mouths of older adults I knew, and I just absorbed how stupid it sounded. I didn't egg them on, I didn't argue with them. I just put it in my pocket for later. Is not a thing to do. And I think that's kind of what your job is. Your parents aren't going to be perfect, but you're supposed to try to observe their behavior as objectively as you can and remove the pieces you find abhorrent. And so for my generation, it was like the gay thing. I remember being a kid and being like, everybody's arguing about gay marriage all the fucking time, but nobody my age seems to care about gay marriage. So when I'm an adult, nobody will care about gay marriage and we'll all get along great. And now I'm an adult and we don't get along at all. And it's, we found a new line to fight on. So the blonde girl, I can't remember her fucking name in the movie right now. Anyway, she is trying very hard to make everybody think she's cool, think she's savvy, think she's street smart. And she's really clueless and scared and inexperienced like the rest of them.
Well, they can't put you away just for saying weird things.
She likes the attention, so she likes building herself up to receive it.
You love him. You want to have like 10,000 of babies. Shut up.
Hi, Jane. Oh, he says hi.
My name's Ricky. I just went next door to you.
Yeah, I seem to remember you jerking off on my pillow last night.
I didn't mean to scare you. I just think you're interesting. I'm not upset. Just curious.
Why don't you make a documentary about how your semen changed my hair color because I slept on it because I'm a nasty, nasty girl. Maybe you could write me a song about why the hell I would ever want to do that. She reminds me of my sister-in-law, that blonde girl. The way she talks and acts and the attitude she tries to put out, like, don't fuck with me, I'm just, yeah, whatever. Put your ass in a suitcase. I didn't mean to imply I would kill anybody. She's small. Like, I could literally put her in a suitcase. That's what I meant. I guess you wouldn't know that. Oh, man. This relationship. So in a household, you have your strongest personality. The alpha, whoever is running it, essentially, right? Whoever the buck stops here. And you could argue, oh, and we're equal. And save that shit. The buck is always going to stop with one person, usually. And most of the time, the dynamic is such that the person who's like second in command is willing to defer to the other person. Like, that's just their nature. They don't want the pressure of having to make the final decision. So everybody else basically has to find their place in that microcosm that is the house. They have to find what their role is to coexist with that person so that everybody fits together and it gets them the least amount of grief. It's survival. It's figuring out what is the path of least resistance for me to be here because I'm stuck here. So in this house, it's Lester's wife, and it's turned him into the bitch boy, and his daughter is moody and needy and doesn't really have a relationship with either of them. And then on the other side, it was the dad, and you saw the mom sitting there silently, basically seems like she has no lust for life, just totally defeated. You don't really know what the dad's kick is. He doesn't seem to be enjoying himself, but he also seems to be in charge of his own roller coaster ride. And then Ricky, we haven't dug too much into him yet, but he's kind of going the other direction from his dad as far as the strictness. He is disciplined, but he's entrepreneurial. He likes to smoke dope. He's more creative and artsy, getting away from that kind of military way that his dad is.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I need a drink.
This is an interesting dynamic because she is basically in awe of that other dude, and Lester could sense it. He knew that he could tell by the way she talked to him that there was something there, so he came over and kind of claimed his territory, so to speak. It wasn't effective, but he tried. Look at him.
Excuse me.
If you were another dog, would you care if he pissed on your, like, it's weak, smells like lemonade.
I'm Ricky Fitz. I just moved in the house next to you.
Ricky Oh, one of the greatest scenes in the history of cinema is coming up. No, I can't really say one of the greatest scenes, but it's one of the best lines. Ricky's line to his boss is something to live by. And I think that in order to be happy, you kind of need to have that freedom. You always need to feel like you can do that. If you really wanted to, you could tell your boss, well, stop paying me and leave me alone. And you would be all right. That is something to strive for, to have that kind of, that's what, at my core, that's what I want to be. I always want to be, okay, fuck you then, I'm out. What? You think you're just going to do that with me? You're going to try to get me under your thumb? Peace. And I've exercised that a few times in my life. But of course, it gets much harder as your responsibility level grows, because it's not just you attached to your decisions anymore. It becomes a wife, and then it becomes a wife and a kid, and then a wife, kid, and a dog, and it kind of spider webs out to where the ramifications no longer would justify that action. But that's also why I don't do the Lester Burnham cubicle life. I can't do that shit. I can't sacrifice that much of my life to just sit in here because you told me to sit here for X amount of time. Give me something to do. Give me something to work through. Like, I like to be given a task that I can get done as fast as I want to, because I'll get that shit done lickety-split, because I want to be done. So that's part of how I got into newspapers, or when I used to clean houses. Because I get paid by the house. I can clean the house really fast and be done with it. It's not like get paid $20 an hour. I was talking right over Ricky's line. But he becomes my personal hero and Lester's personal hero right now.
Well, I guess when you're all, 16?
18.
18.
Just do these gigs as a cover.
I'm going to smoke a cigarette, Ricky Fitz.
My dad in it for the rest of my life, but I pretend to be an upstanding young citizen with a respectable job.
Do, 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 do. Yeah, so that kind of ramble that I was on. I like to get paid for what I do and not how long I do it, because you only have so much time in your life, and it's really hard to maximize your potential getting paid by the interval, getting paid hourly. It doesn't incentivize productiveness. And in fact, they say if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? So people who are content to live in that hourly realm and aren't trying to get out of it and just want to have a job and feel comfortable, their new game becomes, how little can I work because I'm getting paid the same amount regardless? At my wife's work, I would say half the people who work there are just auditing and fixing the work of the other half of the people who work there. Like, literally, the company is twice as big as it needs to be, and it's just fixing other people's mistakes. And there's several days where they don't do anything. Like, I didn't have anything to do today, so I just read a book on my phone. And it's like, what? How the fuck is that even possible? But You still have to sit there because it's your job to be there for X number of hours, even if there's nothing to fucking. That's not my gig at all. I haven't had an hourly job since 2000 and maybe 10. Maybe I'm 9 years without an hourly job. At least 7. I'm trying to. Yeah, I think I'm about 9 years without an hourly job. Feels great. Now what I'm working into is trying to get shit that's more passive or more creative, shit I'm more interested in. Making t-shirts, making podcasts, doing shit like that. Speaking of which, I'll put a link down below. I've been putting t-shirt designs up on Amazon to sell. I don't really have a great handle for you to use to try to find them all, but if you search for Avarice Trading or Avarice Podcast, you can probably find them. Or I'll put the link for the podcast logo shirt in the first comment and pin it. That's if you're listening on YouTube. Or you can follow me on Facebook, and I post the designs all on there with links. I don't really have an audience yet or a firm grasp on how to monetize this or anything. I'm just kind of doing it and seeing where it goes. But there will become a certain point in time where if I want to really ramp it up, I'm going to need to be making money off of it. Right now, it's just kind of a side hobby that I'm hoping turns into something. This would be such a weird situation. I can't imagine his headspace. He has a huge crush on this girl, but it's his daughter's friend, and she's sleeping in the room right down the hall. She's in there in her underwear right now. Like, I think this would be like the quintessential example of a dark comedy. Like, it's kind of funny, but it's also like kind of fucking gross at the same time. But it gets into your psyche. It gets like, it makes you explore, do I have this part of me?
Oh my god.
And is that good? Is that bad? How do I keep this from being me? How do I... It really makes you examine those kind of things. See, really, she's gonna start dancing and shit. 'Cause she likes that attention. She's a thirst trap. If she would totally be a fucking Instagram hoe nowadays. That wasn't available then. I'm so glad that wasn't a thing when I was a kid. I love technology and all that, but we just went outside and ride bikes. Let's ride bikes. He's got a bicycle. Like, I'd go over to my friend's house. He probably lived a half mile away. And then we would ride our bike on this huge loop through the country and come back around. It was probably like a 5-mile loop. We never took our parents on a car ride and said, this is the route we go, and if you ever can't find us, we'll be somewhere along here. We just went. Be home before the street light comes on. Like... And you were more attentive. You were paying more attention to what was in front of you. You were observing more. You could make sense of things around you better because you weren't so sucked in to this shit right in front of you. I mean, TV was part of that. TV definitely was accomplishing that goal. But socially, if you had a friend over, it was just you and that friend, you had a chance to actually like get close and you weren't both just sitting there on your phones the whole time on the couch. We went and did things because we were trying to get away from our parents. That was the way you had to do that. It's like, a group of friends are gonna go to the arcade, we're gonna go to the bumper cars, we're gonna do something. fuck it, we're just gonna go in the yard and throw the football. Oh man, the condemning footage that he's taking right now. The weird thing is how well his attraction to this girl serves him. That's the fucked up part. Because he decides that he's going to try to become, I guess, worthy of her. He's holding her up on such a pedestal that he feels like he's inadequate. And maybe she's exposed feelings of inadequacy that he's had all along that maybe he's ignored. And so now he wants to start eating better. His personality's starting to show. He wants to work out. He's concerned about how he looks naked. Like, if it was just a regular side piece, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world for him. It's just the fact that she's a high school kid and his daughter's best friend that's really fucked up about it. But it would just be a standard kind of rom-com if it didn't have that element, these weird elements in it. If he was just like, oh, I met this hot girl, I'm gonna get my shit together. The fact that he's married would be an obstacle. Did he just sit up like a zombie? Oh, this is his imagination. He's jerking off, right? I can't remember. I don't remember this scene. I'm saying hi to my monster. For as much as I love this movie, I should actually have more knowledge about it. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know who directed it. I'm kind of ashamed of myself in this moment. My vocabulary is not adequate. My vocabulary is inadequate to convey how much I like this movie. I guess there's nothing more perfect than perfect, so I guess if I say it's perfect, the superlatives don't get much higher than that, but that doesn't feel like a good enough word. It would have been, I might put my foot in my mouth right now. Was there an American Beauty book? Because I feel like it would have been a great fucking book. The way that it's kind of narrated by him lends itself to being a first-person book. It's just kind of laid out there for you. So she wakes up and catches him jerking off in bed right next to her. See, I don't know. Depending on what kind of boundaries you have with your significant other and how comfortable you are, the whole bed would be vibrating. I'm not saying I've tried it, but I've tried it. And the bed moves quite a bit. I mean, you're putting a little bit of torque into your meat there, especially if you got a hell of a rod. And I don't think that my wife would even care. I'm just more considerate than that. Wouldn't want to wake anybody up, like, especially jerking off. I would feel like such a piece of shit. Oh, sorry I woke you up jerking off. But if we had this kind of relationship and these were our boundaries, where she was going to get, like, authentically offended, I would never, not a chance in hell, be jerking off in bed next to her. Get up and walk into the bathroom, you fucking savage. This is like pre-memory foam, latex, Casper mattress, not an endorsement. That classic spring mattress and box spring would be vibrating all over the goddamn place. She would have felt like she dropped some quarters in the vibrating bed, and the beer cans were about to explode because John Candy left them there.
I did support you when you got your license. And some people might think that entitles.
But this is a very authentic feeling interaction. If you've been in a long-term relationship, inevitably there are these kind of tensions that get built up over time between both of you, because for the sake of the common goal, solidarity, and progressing day by day, you kind of bite your lip on things. You kind of just sweep it under the rug, especially minor things. And then there comes a point where there's an inciting event, and all this pent up energy comes out on both sides. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. For him, it was cathartic. He's a new him since discovering this fucking jailbait pussy. He goes to the gay guys and asks them how to look good naked. I think that is a brilliant move, because they're friends, and it's not like crossing a line like asking a girl, but they're also two guys who like to look at other guys naked, so their opinion is valid. so it's kind of brilliant if you think about it. It's not like asking his wife. She's gonna be like, why you want to look better naked? We were just arguing about how bad our sex life is. He can't ask Colonel Frank Fitz, Colonel, how do I look better naked? Colonel will be like, stop being such a pussy. Hang a little bit lower. Water your grass, Colonel. I'm very unimpressed. I would expect a military man to have a perfect lawn. How long ago did you move in? That is a bit of a suspicious relationship, I'm going to be honest. If I had an 18-year-old son, even with my personality, and I'm not nearly what that fucking asshole is, if the 40-year-old next-door neighbor stopped by from his jog like this to talk about borrowing a movie, like, it's all a little bit funky. Like, why do you two get what's exactly the... Ricky's pretty mature for 18. I gotta give him that. He's on the dope. He listens to a lot of music. He makes the videos and all that. He's kind of expanding his mind. He's out there in the world working. He has a perspective on different life views because of the way his dad is. And I think he's Muslim. He appears to be... He's got a good head on his shoulders. He actually seems much older than 18. But I would be like, to the 40-year-old guy, I would be like, why you don't have any friends your own age? Why you want to hang out with my 18-year-old? It's because he's a predator. Duh. We now know. Allegedly. $2,000 for that, and it's supposed to be an ounce? That would be the densest. It's got to be like a rock. What is it, hash? Look at how small that is. That looks like an eighth, maybe. If it was pretty dense stuff, a quarter. So it's like 4 times as dense weed. And it's $2,000 for an ounce. It better literally put me on the moon. Like, I would expect nothing less for that kind of money. What the fuck are you talking about? $2,000? I can't even. I used to be able to get 4 ounces for $600, and it wasn't horrible. It probably wasn't nearly as good as what he's smoking, but it was also 4 times as much weed for 60%, no, 30% of the price. And if it's that dense, it would be horrible for rolling in joints. And it would be a waste if it's that powerful. What does he take, 1 hit and then put it out? You're going to waste a bunch of it just lighting it and putting it out, the burning, the ash. He needs like a little tiny 1 hitter, and he's just letting it sit there and burn. He's lifting weights while he's smoking. His heart rate's going to be increased. It's going to pump through his system faster and be out of there. He's not going to enjoy the high as much. You don't smoke weed to mellow you out and at the same time raise your heart rate by exercising. Now, that's not to say I will sometimes get high and then go to the gym, but it's more to just kind of calm me and get me in the right mindset ahead of the workout. Sometimes I get a little bit anxious about what I'm going to do. How's this going to work out? Do I really feel like it? I just mellow myself out and go in. But once I get the blood pumping, it goes away. So to be mid-workout and to be like, I'm going to toke up and keep working out, it seems like you're just wasting it. Oh, now see, he's becoming my hero. He's decided to give 0 fucks.
Which I think would interest the IRS since it technically constitutes fraud.
He does have leverage. That's the key. You don't know if he would have gone this overboard if he didn't have leverage. But he is fully capable of blackmailing them in this situation. And that's a questionable moral issue. But when you're dealing with one of these fucking corporations that files people into these sardine can filing cabinet cubicle hells, I think I might be okay with it. They can absorb it. If they can afford all the expenditures that he listed out, the girl who stole the credit card, the company account, all that, they can afford to pay somebody for a no-show job. Oh, that just reminded me of The Sopranos. The mob ways, the no-shows. I want a no-show job. Sounds fucking great. You got one, it's called being a fucking American. Ah! So, she already has this kind of... I can't picture the word right now. She has an admiration for him, but it's almost unhealthy. She's in awe of him, and he has now come here and announced to her that his supermodel girlfriend is leaving him, moving back to New York, and he is freshly single. She's got a husband that she looks at like a bitch. She doesn't admire a goddamn thing about him because she stripped away all of his masculinity. She sees this guy as everything her husband's not. She's sexually frustrated. We already went through that. So she's going to ride that pony. He just got her so wet right there. The look on her face. She just melted. He's got her. And he knows it, because he's a salesman. That's why he's better than you at real estate. He can bullshit. Whenever I hear somebody's an excellent salesman, unless they are selling the fucking... unless they are selling an undeniable product that basically sells itself, like, oh, he's a really good heroin salesman. It's like, I don't think you got to try hard to sell heroin. I think people try to find it. But when they say he could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves, it's like, oh, so he's a bullshit artist. So I can't trust what he says because he's trying to persuade me one way or another. And he's good at it. Gotcha. I don't trust anybody that's considered like a great salesman. I just can't. I just don't. Because whenever my experience in sales is, in order to be good at it, you either have to have the best product that's high in demand, or you have to be good at bullshitting and twisting people's perception. And that's not something I'm interested in. It makes me feel like a con man and like I'm selling them something they don't want. Plus, I'm more of a detail. Oof, man, she's flexible for an old gal. I didn't understand the physics of this when I was first time I saw it when I was younger, because when this movie came out, I was 12, and I was like, wait a minute, How is his dick... I was trying to figure out where the insertion point was based off of their... I couldn't make sense of the way they twisted their bodies around and how her legs were that way. I get it totally now, but it was one of those things, until you try it, you wouldn't know. It's like, oh, it's just the legs are up. I gotcha. When I saw that, I was like, how is that comfortable for her? Why would she want to do that? She seems to like it. That's weird. She drives a Mercedes and he drives that fucking piece of shit. I can't really talk. I drive a 2005 Ford Focus and my wife drives a 2010 Subaru. She's got the much nicer car, but I feel that's only right. She drives the kid around, and if something goes wrong with the vehicle, with my vehicle, I'm more calm about it. I'm more confident I can take care of the situation. I don't want her to I don't want to feel like she's ever vulnerable. I want her to have the most reliable car we have, most capable, safest, all that shit. So that's that move. Plus, there was a point in time where we had identical cars, and I ran mine into the ground and had to get rid of it, and she still has hers. So she kind of earned it in a way. I don't necessarily understand this move. Why? Not this. I understood this move. Them fucking. Why is Lester getting a job at Carl's Jr.? They call it Mr. Smiley's. It's Hardee's or Carl's Jr. He just blackmailed the other place for a year's salary, right? He's got time to weigh his options and figure out what he wants to do. Why does he decide he gets a wild hair up his ass and he's gonna apply to work at this fast food place? Now, I'm trying to make sense of this. Maybe he's concerned about the amount of burn there's going to be on that year's income he just got, and he's trying to negate that somewhat by supplementing it with the fast food job so that he can live a comfortable lifestyle that he's used to for a longer period of time before he has to either cut his overhead or make more money. But I feel like it was a spur of the moment, jumping the gun kind of decision, and he seems perfectly content with it. And I don't necessarily understand why that's what he just randomly chose to do. Oh, maybe foreshadowing of he told Ricky up in the bedroom he flipped burgers all summer just to buy an 8-track, and it was the best year of his life. So maybe it's a nostalgia factor like that. I wouldn't dare say the best job I ever had, but the best work environment in a classic job sense that I ever had was my first job working at McDonald's. It had ebbs and flows, different general managers, things of that nature. But there was a point in time where we were so tight and close-knit as a crew. We had a manager that was hilarious that we felt like we could talk to about shit. The people in the crew, a lot of us were actually friends. You know how employers will throw like Christmas parties or have a dinner or something like that. When you work for a McDonald's, damn near nobody shows up. We had like 95% of our crew members turn out for ours one year, and they all brought a bunch of family members. It was kind of ridiculous how big it ended up being. There was a real sense of camaraderie there. And I met my wife there and my best friend there. So I would have a big time nostalgia factor for a scene like that. But I don't think that I could put up with all the fucking young kids and shit working there trying to tell me what to do, even now. And I really think I would be able to put up with it even less 10 years from now. So this is I never exactly knew how to make heads or tails of this either. Ricky comes in here and shows her this Nazi plate, like authentic China from the Third Reich. Now, does his dad just have that because it's an artifact and it's rare and it reminds him of something?
Culture of people who collect this Nazi shit. But my dad just has this one thing.
Yeah, see, he says there's a subculture of people that collect that, like neo-Nazis. But his dad just has that one thing. So does he just have, like... Are they hinting? We already know that he's homophobic, but that is kind of par for the course for his generation, I'm going to be honest. Very few people were comfortable with that in his era. But is he like legitimate Nazi? I don't get that vibe. So I always wondered why they put that in there, the Nazi plate. What was they trying to make us think about the dad that we didn't already think? Or were they trying to just show us how ballsy Ricky is and how much he trusts her to show her this thing that his dad has that's going to inspire a lot of feelings just based off the logo on the back? Now this fucking bag scene. Somebody ate a maple bar from Safeway and they dropped the bag on the ground as they were walking because they're a piece of shit. And it got caught up in a whirlwind with some leaves and it's dancing around. But the way that he's like on the verge of tears as he describes it, like he just watched the Sistine Chapel get painted in time lapse. Are they trying to show me he's slightly crazy? Because this is like when somebody does nothing and tries to call it art to me. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, bro. If I were her, I would feel so fucking uncomfortable right now trying to listen to this. The monologue inside my head, or the voice inside my head, would just be saying, how long do I have to fucking sit here? Is it almost over? Is he gonna stop soon? There's so much beauty in the world you feel like you can't take it. I think you got blinders on, bro. And if everything was beautiful, why wouldn't you be able to take it? What would suck would be that would be your new baseline. You would be unimpressed by everything. If everything was beautiful, there would be no beautiful because there would be nothing flawed to compare it to. Beautiful is beautiful because it's unique. I have lived here in the Pacific Northwest, and we just have a shitload of trees. It rains all the time. Shit's green. And I kind of take it for granted. I forget that there's not places where there's just acres and acres and acres and acres of forest. Just mountains covered with forest as far as the eye can see. I'm just used to it. I don't even notice it anymore.
What time is it?
And then there was somebody who came here, what was his name? It was a guy from the University of Tennessee. He came here to work out for the Portland Trailblazers before the draft. And he said, he's like, man, I ain't never seen so many trees. The air is just fresh. I like it up here. And I was like, you know what? He's fucking right. And I never notice it because it's what I'm used to. It's...
How dare you speak to me that way in front of her? And I marvel that you can be so contemptuous of me on the same day that you lose your job.
But when I go back to where I'm from in central Washington, it's like a desert there. The landscape, the topography is very similar, but the hills are all barren. They're just dirt, nothing growing on them at all. They look like muscles coming together with their the way they slant down and crease and come together and fold. Ooh, he grew a set. look, they can't fucking believe it. They're like, oh my God, there's still testosterone in his body. He goes a little bit overboard, but he makes his point. He's like, listen, you motherfuckers are gonna start showing me some respect, or I'm gonna break every goddamn plate in this. I swear to Christ, if one more word comes out of your cunt mouth, I'll be forced to eat every fucking chicken in this room. Oh, okay, I get it. He doesn't go overboard because she tries to take the upper hand again, and he's like, nah, bitch, this is what we're doing. Look at the look in his eyes. Oh my God. I feel like he had a fucked up upbringing. I believe his brother talked about that, like their dad was abusive and alcoholic. I don't think I'm speaking out of school here.
From now on, we're going to
And
music because, frankly, and I don't think I'm alone here.
when you're in an environment like that, I think the natural reaction is that you have to temper your emotions or divert your emotions or mask them, because there's a lot of sadness and anxiety and anger. So you either seal up and become a fortress and nothing goes in or out, really, especially out, or you get very good at faking, at pretending you feel different than you do, or at manipulating other people's feelings to try to keep yourself out of situations. So I think it's interesting that that's the background he came up from, and he's so good at acting, because you wonder if that is like a defense mechanism against the abuse, was to change, like to literally become great at pretending, putting on a front. And again, it's hard for me to trust people who are great actors. It's like, I've seen you pretend really well. How am I supposed to trust what you're saying to me? Especially in a crucial situation. You could really just get it together and be like, okay, I just gotta fool him for this one thing.
Ungrateful little brat.
Oof.
Just look at everything you have. When I was your age, I lived in a duplex. We didn't even have our own house.
That's the classic struggle too. Because I don't ever smack my son in the face like that. He's also not even 6 yet. But it's frustrating when they don't appreciate what they have. And it's because they don't know any better. I'm speaking for myself here. You harbor feelings about when it was more of a struggle for you, when you didn't have shit, when you were sharing duplexes or apartments with roommates, when you had to take bottles and cans back to make sure you had grocery money, to now having like a big house, all the toys, all that shit, but they've had it their whole life. So those feelings of how bad it can be, those don't exist in them. This is their baseline. And we pick at flaws. Nothing's ever going to be perfect enough for us. Even if it was, we'd find something we didn't like about it and fuck it up. So naturally, the daughter is picking shit about their life she doesn't like. They think or at least the mom thinks that she's given her this, you have this house, we provide for you. But it's the dynamic of the family itself that is troubling to the daughter. It's not a want for material things. It's that there's no relationships there in the family. They don't know each other. She's got them lopsided boobs. That's real. Right? Does she really have that? Oh, I'm sorry, girl. Now this. Oh, fuck. That was a full-on punch. He's bleeding by the eye. I guess he's over 18, but fuck, man. Seeing he's a pacifist, he won't even fight back. He'd probably lose. His dad's a little more headstrong. He's got that mentality, bro. And Ricky's been caught getting in trouble before. So he broke into his dad's office. How did his dad know, though? Because he had a key. But his dad thinks he was trying to steal money so that he could buy drugs. And he was just showing his girlfriend your Nazi plate. And the dad doesn't seem to be hurt. Like, there's no impact on the dad when he's told that it was the Nazi plate that he was showing her. So I don't think it's something... I don't think he harbors secret neo-Nazi tendencies. Because I think that there would have been more of a reaction to that specific act on his part, if that were the case. I think that he really would have been upset that he showed her the Nazi plate. But he didn't seem to care at all about that. He actually seems remorseful that he just beat the shit out of his son when it was for an innocent reason. He did break into his office, though. And that's a boundary issue. We have boundaries. You respect my boundaries, I'll respect your boundaries. I have personal space boundaries. There's certain times it's okay, but I don't generally like people all up on me, near me, crowding me, overly touchy-feely. I don't like it. Somehow, though, not a lot of people seem to step over that line. There's no habitual line steppers, as Charlie Murphy would say. I don't know if it's like a vibe I put off or something, but I don't really... Like, even when I played sports, and no coach ever tried to smack my ass, maybe because he knew that I might, like, stomp his foot. I don't... But it's... Whatever it is, I'm glad about it. Maybe it's because I frown more than I smile. I don't know what it is. It's my default setting. I just frown. I think it's because when I was younger, I was worried about people fucking with me. So I wanted to have, like, an appearance of somebody that you wouldn't want to fuck with. Like, I always wanted to look like I was capable of handling my shit. Like, so I think it just became a permanent scowl. Like... Oh, don't make eye contact with him, fuck. I don't know what it is. I already got lines in my forehead. I'm only 31. Oh, I love this. She's singing Nobody Can Rain on My Parade, and she's about to pull into the driveway and get her parade fucking rained out. There's gonna be a rain delay, a postponement. We're gonna cancel this motherfucker and move it to the end of the season. It might not ever happen. Ooh-wee. Look at that rip. I was gonna say ride, whip, red. Came out rip. He has regressed quite a bit, though. Like, he's essentially a 20-year-old kid again.
Whose car is that out front?
Mine.
This is quintessential midlife crisis, basically, right? Now that I'm really thinking about it.
I traded it in.
Total identity crisis. I'm gonna die someday. What the fuck have I done with my life? I've got to start living it up now. Situation.
Have you done something different? You look great.
Where's Jane?
Jane not home.
She got bored out, bro. Somebody drilled her out for oil, and she's feeling refreshed and renewed. She was in need of a nice lube. Okay, Lester, but we can't fuck right now because my lips are still swollen and you're gonna know somebody else has been in there.
What made you become so joyless?
Honestly, I'm sitting in a load right now. And I'm worried that it's gonna saturate my underwear and make it through my dress and then put a spot on this couch that we are about to start arguing about. So I'm going to have to come up with a reason to get up before that happens. My Kegel muscles aren't quite what they used to be, and I couldn't hold it in as long as I thought I would be able to. Is he drinking Miller Lite? That's a respect minus. Or is it Bud Light? I can't tell. Depending how much beer is in that bottle, it's very unlikely that he's going to spill beer on it. When you think about the physics of the issue, it would have to go up the neck and out. It would have to be damn near full for that to happen. If it's like half full, it's not coming out of the bottle until it's several more degrees towards flat.
This is a $4,000 sofa, upholstered in Italian silk. This is not just a couch.
It's just a couch!
I love it.
This isn't life.
It's just stuff.
Stuff. And it's become more important.
You shouldn't pay $4,000 for a couch then, if you can't use it like a couch. Like, what's the point? The only way you should spend $4,000 on a couch is if you're just super balling and you don't care and you still treat it like a couch.
I'm only trying to help you.
Oh, I'm going to. And you're going to like it. We're already an hour and 18 minutes in. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Some nasty spacecraft. This is an odd moment of privacy, considering the kind of strict disciplinarian his father is and the interaction they just had with each other. Was this agreed upon? Was he like, you're 18, you're a man now? See, I was under the impression that things of this nature were going to happen when I turned 18 and I lived with my parents, because I turned 18 very early in my senior year of high school, so I was still going to be there for a grip. And I was like, sweet, I'm 18 now. Because I don't know where I got the idea, but I believe that I had heard that from my parents. Like, that was the line, like, you're not 18, blah, blah, blah. Turned 18, and it became, your girlfriend's not 18. It's like, shit. Well, then I got a different girlfriend that was 18, and it was, well, your mom's not comfortable with it. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm older than she was when I was born already. So when I was motivated to get the fuck out. I'm not a fan of restrictions and confinement. I was like, okay, there's too many ways, there's too many walls to bump into here. I'm going to go out in the open space. See you guys.
Put me in the hospital. And they drugged me up and left me in it for 2 years.
But I also think that's healthy. In a way, I think that's like your parents' job, to prepare you, but then also kind of force you the fuck out. Like the way the bird kicks its kids out of the nest so they start flying. I think that the trend has been lately to create too much comfort for your kids at home, to the extent that they don't want to leave because they're not incentivized to leave. They wouldn't enjoy their life more if they moved. I'm not saying that was the case that I did. There was definitely some shock involved in adjusting to that, taking care of myself in every regard, paying bills, the like. But that's what I was pursuing. I was pursuing freedom and opportunity and the ability to make my own decisions and be in charge of myself, not be told what to do all the time. So I think kids are getting too much of that at home nowadays. And so they're not incentivized to leave because they don't feel like they're gaining anything. And in fact, they're probably going from like having their own room in a decent sized house to sharing an apartment with 3 people, and they're like, fuck that noise.
Need a
was a role model.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
That's some horny geek boy who's gonna spray shorts whenever I bring a girlfriend home from school.
I had roommates for...
What about Lena?
I've actually never lived alone. When I moved out of my parents' house, I moved in with my girlfriend, who's now my wife.
Come out of his misery.
But it was like a house with a bunch of people at that point. It wasn't like I moved directly in with her. But we had a shitload of people lived in that house. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I've been babysitting since I was 5.
One of them was kind of part-time, so usually 5, but sometimes 6. Different people. But because we were all chipping in for rent, we were able to afford a house. And it didn't really seem like we were that on top of each other, to be honest. It was pretty big. It was dope. And we just definitely over-partied. The neighbors hated us because it was in this neighborhood that people in our demographic couldn't afford to live in without being in a situation like we were in with that many people living there. We were kind of like the eyesore of the neighborhood, or the earache. So then we get together, we eventually move out, but then we had another roommate for several years after that. You gotta do what you gotta do. Decades back, there was this struggle where women wanted the right to work, right? Well, in my household, it was a necessity that my mom worked, or shit wasn't gonna... Both my parents had to, like... So that's the kind of perspective I've always come up into it with, was like, it's like it's a team effort type thing. You've got to do what you got to do to meet the goal. So if that means having roommates so you can split up the rent so that you can afford it, so you can find, like, whatever it takes, basically. Look at that red door. If that place had a bigger porch, I would be a fantastic house. I like having a big front porch that I can sit out on with my banjo and my weed pipe and my cigarettes and my beer, everything. Look at that beautiful vintage Walkman. Oh, it's yellow, plays tapes. He's got a fucking, looks like a neoprene waistband to hold it. He's on point. He's even got the wire behind his back so it doesn't get fucked up in his arms and shoulders while he's running. He's a different guy. He's found his stride. At least he's having a great time right up until the end. I mean, he wasted however many years prior to that, but at least he figured it out and enjoyed himself a little bit before it was over. And he never actually fucks the girl, right? So it's all in his head, so no harm, no foul, I guess. It's all theoretical, and I don't know her age. She might be 18.
You better watch yourself, Jamie. You're gonna turn into a real bitch, just like your mother.
This fucking guy. Oh. He tried to find I don't even know. They call me the Seeker. The music in this movie is pretty fucking good, too.
I don't need a ride. I'm going in with Jane and her mom.
See, so the relationships, the communication, the intimacy between Ricky and his parents is almost non-existent, right? They have very few things that they have common ground on. Very few things they do to get... So his dad kind of feels violated here by the fact that Ricky's not riding into school with him, because he probably actually looks at that as like time where they hang out. It's somehow important to his routine, to him. And even though he treats his son like shit, basically, it appears that having a bond to him is important. You don't see that hole right there? Come on, he's smarter than that. There's also an issue I've spoken about on previous commentaries of when you look at stuff through a certain lens, that you're going to notice correlations that point that direction more often than you should, because it's what you're looking for, it's what you're expecting. It's almost like your brain is preparing you for it. It's not necessarily even a conscious decision. And he's, as we learned earlier, of course, homophobic. So he sees something like this and views it through the lens of, oh no, this is gay. My son is gay. This is the worst thing in the world. When it's actually just a total misunderstanding. And he takes it to like a psychopath level without even talking to his son about it and trying to get any clarification. I'm going to step outside and take a piss real quick. I will be right back. Oh, he's about to catch his wife cheating on. Ooh.
Would you like to try our new beef and cheese pot pie on a stick? Just $1.99 for a limited time only?
We were just at a seminar. Buddy, this is my...
Her husband. We've met before, but something tells me you're going to remember me this time.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. Hopefully that wasn't too much audio from the movie and I'm not going to get a copyright claim. But she's playagotcaught.com. See, he's been secretly having this forbidden relationship in his head with this girl. But physically, technically, he hasn't done anything wrong at this point to betray the trust between him and his wife. At least nothing this drastic. He, of course, the car, the job thing. But again, no harm, no foul. If he's got the money and they can pay their bills, who really cares? But she just straight up got caught with her hand in the cookie jar. And so now he has every reason in the world to write her off entirely in his mind. Like he's just straight up done with her.
No, I understand.
And now Buddy's going to get out of there because he feels that this water is getting a little too hot for him. And she's kind of broken because any type of moral high ground or anything that she was going to hold over Lester, she's not really going to pull off now. He's got that card he can pull whenever he wants. They're basically kind of done. Like he's over it. And the enjoyment she was getting out of the Buddy situation is now ended as a result. And it's back to her regular ass, unsuccessful real estate life at home with Lester, the whole nine. And she's been made a fool of, too. And Lester almost feels liberated by it. Like now he has free reign to just do whatever he wants because she made the first move. This song is going to get me a fucking copyright strike, or not a strike, but I'm going to get taken down because of this song on YouTube. I can't go over and turn the volume down because I'm standing at the door. I'm new, I don't know what to do. Okay, it's gone. Sometimes inadvertently, I'll let too much of a song that's playing in a movie or in the background get on the track, and then I get a claim for that song on my video, and it's harder to defend this song being on the video because it's not really fair use because I'm not critiquing the song in any way. I'm critiquing the movie. The song just so happens to be there. Actually, that happened with the intro song for Halloween. I didn't get hit for the actual movie. I got hit because the song plays at the beginning of the movie, and it was a copyright for the song. And I explained it and got it taken off, but...
Oh, so now that you have a boyfriend, you like to love it? We gotta get your real.
So the friends, they're getting at this point in their... where Jane is actually maturing, and the friend is still pretending to be mature. but unwilling to explore areas of herself that make her uncomfortable where maybe she needs work. She just wants to pretend everything that she's a finished product and it's all good.
You know, put up a fight, dude. You are such a pushover. No, I can't. Really, no. Okay. Well, you
No, of course, this is a very coincidental, I want to say, but the angle just so works out so that it looks like he's blowing Lester from his dad's perspective. Then he comes home with a fistful of cash. It's not a good look. It is about the worst misunderstanding you could have in your entire life. It turns out to be the worst misunderstanding that Lester ever has in his life. And all these pieces are kind of coming together, and they're gonna coalesce, and it's gonna culminate. Actually, what's interesting, all the pieces are there, all the main characters, but they all kind of go about it in their individual way, and there's very limited interaction, and it's usually one-on-one. So this happens with this person goes to there, a different person, like the whole group doesn't come together as one. The wife is in her car basically the entire time.
Working out.
This is in a weird way. She might be attracted to him, and this might be authentic, but she's also like pulling a power move on Jane, the friend. Like basically, like, no matter what you do, I can do whatever I want, and I'm the hot shit. And you can't stop me because your dad wants me more than he likes you. I think it's a weird power play, like your dad likes me more than he likes you type move. Because she's a cunt, let's be honest.
Where did you get that?
My job.
Don't lie to me.
And for Ricky, this is about to be the ultimate, all right, fuck you, I'm out of here.
What did he make you?
He tries to work this out with his dad amicably, and he realizes that he's just done. He's over it, and he doesn't want to put up with this shit anymore, and he's gonna bounce.
Sit back and watch my only son become a cocksucker.
Jesus, what is it with you?
He's not even gonna bother to argue with him. He's just going to agree and break his heart and leave.
You again. You mean that? Damn straight I do.
I'd rather you were dead than be a fucking addict.
It's kind of like a Bronx Tale, where he's like, fuck it, it cost him $20, or cost you $20 to never see him again. You made off cheap. Ricky right here sees this as an opportunity to be dead to his father, to wash his hands of his family completely.
Boy, don't start.
So he's just going to go ahead and steer into it and convince his dad that he's gay, and his dad will never want to see him again, and that's fine by him. He's out. He's served his time. He's done.
I don't ever want to see you again.
And he can't even like give him a hug goodbye or anything.
The man you are.
And the poor mom, you got to feel for the mom. She seems like there's just nothing there. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Is she on pills? Is she sedated? Did he beat the life out of her? Like, what the fuck happened to her? That she's just this blank canvas. You know that old classic painting of the two farmers? The dude in the glasses that's bald and stand next to his wife? She looks like that wife. Like, she looks like she has had a hard life. And this is a fairly modern movie. Her life ain't been that fucking hard. She looks like she grew up in a concentration camp or something. She just looks demoralized.
Wish things would have been better for you.
And they've got one of those spotless, orderly houses, but there's no pizzazz to it. There's no attempt to impress anybody with it. It's just old shit, but it's all in its proper place and clean. They probably got more money in their savings than Lester and his wife. Oh, it had to rain, and now I'm gonna have to wipe mud off my dog's feet. Fuck. All right, Biznatch, come here. Did you have fun outside? What was out there? Was anything out there? No? Did you go to the bathroom? Did you make your peeps and poops? Did you make your peeps and poops? Good girl.
If I had to leave tonight, would you come with me? If I had to go to New York to live tonight, would you come with me?
That's my pit bull, Mary Jane. Mary Jane, say hi. Say hi. No? Okay.
He's like a mental case. You'll end up living in a box on the street. I'm no more a kid than you are.
The friend has a need to tear people down to make herself feel better.
I know people in the city that can help us get set up.
What, other drug dealers?
It's constantly, I'm this, you're that, I'm over here, you're down there. This isn't gonna work for you. You shouldn't have. It would be great if. I'm going to. I've met too many woulda, coulda, shouldas in my life. I'm about dids. I don't care about what you want to do. I don't care about what you could have done. I don't care about what you're doing and what you did.
Yes, you are. And you're boring. And you're totally ordinary.
Oh, he lets her have it. He's about to shatter that confidence. He found Achilles' heel. Smacked her right on that bitch. She's limping around downstairs now. And he just totally became Jane's hero. She didn't really realize she had this kind of relationship with this girl. This girl was kind of only friends with her to make herself feel better and to put Jane down, and Jane would accept it because she has low self-esteem. Come on, your range of motion on those is shit, Lester. There you go. Now that we got the camera's closer, they show him going all the way down. During the approach, those were like, I don't even know if I'd call them half pull-ups. His upper arm wasn't going past parallel with the floor on the downward motion. You gotta go damn near elbows extended on that. This is like, is his dad trying to understand
You want me to get Ricky and Jay?
what is this move?
Are you okay? What's your life?
Or is it the classic, he actually harbors some gay feelings and that's what makes him so homophobic? I had a buddy that used to get so upset about gay related things on TV, the news, songs, everything, like cartoonishly, it didn't make sense. The level of his reaction compared to the minuscule nature of whatever he'd observed or heard. It would just be, everything's gotta go gay, all this gay shit, why is everything so fucking gay? Well, as the years went on, I gained a suspicion that I to this day still have, that he was in fact gay. And it was like some weird denial of that, like a lack of acceptance for for his own preferences, or a resentment towards, I don't know what it was, but there was even older people that I had been around when I was a kid that were definitely authentically homophobic. I had never heard them go that overboard and have that kind of a quality to their reaction. There was something off about it. And, well, I guess I'm not saying any names, so fuck it. He accidentally left his digital camera at my house one day. I didn't know whose it was. So I turned it on, and I was like, I'll glance through a couple pictures, and I should be able to surmise whose this is. Well, let's just say I got a few pictures deep, and there was scrotums and taints and assholes and yeah. So I of course showed my wife, and then and then I was like, oh my god, this all makes sense now. Like, he's a self-hating, closeted gay guy. And then there was certain things that he had said to me over the years that I just chalked it up to like joking or social awkwardness, that now looking back on it, I think he might have been trying to like throw out a subtle line to me and see how I took it, to try to fish for something there. And because was the furthest thing from my mind, whatever my response was, he was like, oh, this dude's clueless to what's going on here. But I mean, I wasn't the only one who would notice it. Other people would be like, why the fuck is he freaking out that much about a 30-second thing that was in a TV show where two dudes kissed or something? It was peculiar. And unfortunately, I'll never get the fucking picture of that taint, the undercarriage of whoever that was, out of my head. So it turned out to be his camera. I guess I didn't get to that point. Yeah. I don't know if he ever put together the fact that those pictures were on there and I was in possession of his camera for probably a week or two. Wonder if he ever worried. The weird thing was, though, like, I knew a couple girls that he fucked. Like, was he just trying it out? Was he bi, maybe? I don't know. I guess it does no good to speculate. Because I definitely never put out a vibe. Like, I wouldn't hang out with him if he was gay. In fact, he said to me one day, I don't remember what we were watching something. I don't remember what we were doing. But he was like, dude, you better not be secretly gay, because that would really fuck me up. And I was like, I think we're cool, bro. Like, what? Why would you, like, like, what does he do? You think I've been running game on you all this time? Like, it was the most out of left field comment. One of the most out of the blue things I've ever heard in my life, I think. You better not be secretly gay. What?
I want you. I wanted you since the first moment I saw you.
This is...
Beautiful thing I have ever seen.
He's infatuated with what he's projecting on her and this image he has of her. He knows nothing about her. They've never had a conversation. He doesn't know if she's interesting. He doesn't know what she wants to be, if she has a head on her shoulders, what direction she's heading in life. He knows none of this. And this is a grown-ass man. He can't be trifling around with fucking hood rats and hoes and wasting time. He's in his waning years. Actually, his waning moments, let's be honest. The bailiff's about to come in and rein him in. She hasn't made it home yet? I thought she was already in the driveway.
I refuse to be a victim. I refuse to be a victim. Lester, I have something I have to say to you.
Why does she think she's the victim? What does she think she's a victim of? She clearly wore the pants in the family up until very recently. And other than a couple arguments, it's not like he beats her, berates her. She just got caught cheating on him. I'm confused about how she's going to approach him and talk about how she's not the victim Where does she think she was the victim? I'm confused. First of all, nobody forced you to marry him. Nobody forced you to have a kid with him. Nobody forced you to continue to be married with him if you were no longer in love or frustrated or anything of that nature. Nobody forced you to do any of this shit.
I'm kind of scared.
These were your choices. So, victim?
My parents will try to find me.
Why not?
It's not like they have a classic domestic abuse relationship where he beats the shit out of her and then he apologizes and she thinks it's her fault and she doesn't feel like she can leave. That's not what's going on here at all. I'm really confused about how she thinks she's the victim. You got way bigger nipples than I thought you would. Oh. Shit. I forgot that this was coming in the movie when I was speaking about it earlier, except for I had the roles reversed. I said if you were a woman, how disappointing would it be to hear that from a guy? But in this situation, assuming she's of age, let's ignore the fact that she could be a minor. We're looking at her breasts right now, so we know at least the actress is over 18. He has this image of perfection when it comes to her built up in his mind. He thinks this is going to be the greatest experience of his life. He's been jerking off thinking about this in bed next to his wife for weeks. Months even. And he gets hit with, this is my first time. She's not going to enjoy it. She's probably not going to be good at it. There's probably going to get blood everywhere. And it's like, it's overall probably not going to be the most enjoyable, delightful experience. And for her, a 42-year-old guy probably shouldn't be her first. So it just took all the wind out of the sails. But it was a sobering moment of reality for him. He realized what the fuck he was doing. And he stopped. So he's, in a way, shed the worst part of his character here. The worst, as I said, his infatuation with her served him well because he got his shit together. So now if the infatuation with her is gone, he's just left with his shit together. And he needs to find a new rudder, a new thing to pursue, a new direction to go. He's started the eating healthy, the exercising. He's liberated from all of it, even his wife. These closing moments for him here are probably the most at peace he's ever felt in his life, or at least in his adult life. I gotta feed my dog. She's over here subtly breathing heavy, hoping I hear it. It's a... She's a bitch, but she's not gonna be aggressive about it. I'm a bitch, I'm a cunt, I'm a dog. Isn't it ironic? Don't turn around, uh-oh. He's actually got an authentic smile on his face and tears in his eyes. You don't want to go out that early, obviously. And you'd hope that if you found your stride in the manner that he has, that you would get more enjoyment out of it, more extended period of time. But if you had to pick a moment to die, a moment to go out when you were as full feeling as you could possibly be, like the purest moment of joy you could have, the most serenity now. He's pretty close to that. Like, the moment he gets it might just be the happiest, most serene moment of his life. The most peaceful and calm and resigned to his fate that he's ever been. And I'm not meaning to imply that he thinks he's going to die in this moment. He's just accepted his role in the world, and he's ready to approach it with a new vigor and a replenished energy. But he unfortunately doesn't get the opportunity because he's about to get clapped up right now. Fatality. So effective too. You don't have to do any over-the-top gore and fucking effects. The blood splatter is enough. It doesn't add to the story. It's enough that he's dead. We don't need to see it. And it's cheaper. And then no. They're fucking around earlier, joking about how maybe he should kill her dad. And I think that it just sunk into her how real of a proposition that would have been. He's got a subtle grin on his face. Now I have to close the blinds because the fucking dog is gonna bark at nothing. Oh my god. Welcome to my life, people. It's usually like right after the kid has gone to bed and you finally think you're just gonna sit down and have no responsibilities for a good chunk of time. That's usually when she starts barking or needs. It's like, nope, one more thing.
Isn't a cycle at all. It stretches on forever, like an ocean of time. For me, it was lying on my back.
Also, they do a pretty good job of his, what the fuck? Now the movie's buffering? Oh my god. So if you were watching along, pause. I'm at 1:53:26. There's 8 minutes left in the movie, including credits, and it fucked up. After I was just talking about how it's always something. Like, literally, always. I'm a bit jaded because the nature of my job is to be the backstop for everybody else's mistakes, kind of like we were talking about earlier. When other people can't show up, can't fit the bill, when shit has to be taken care of, that's when I am there. So you really realize how often people fuck up when it's your job to fix their fuck ups. It's just constant. It's not the same people, but given a large enough pool of people, somebody fucks up every goddamn day. So then when it's shit like this where I have no discernible reason why this movie decided to stop playing, and it's almost over. It's a cunt hair away from being over. Come on, you dill hole. Okay, let's back out of it. No way. It's gonna start playing from the beginning. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Hold tight. I gotta... This is a bitch. Sorry if it sounds like I'm playing like Pac-Man or Tetris or the worst 8-bit video game you can think of, but I am having to fast forward through this on my PlayStation, and there should be a more effective way, but it's not presenting itself to me at the moment.
Ricky,
I have fast food experience. This is unbelievable. I'm sorry, you guys.
You'll end up living in a box on the street. I know more.
Okay, we're getting closer. Something that should have taken like 5 more minutes takes 15 more minutes. Okay.
For me, it was lying on my back and watching
So as I was getting ready to say,
all of this stuff.
what the hell? It got to the same part of the movie and now it's not working again? Jesus Christ, this is frustrating. We might not be able to finish this, you guys. I am sorry. I will try a couple more problem-solving measures, but something might just be wrong with the movie. The actual copy might be fucked up. That's the only thing I can think of now at this point, because nothing else makes sense. And starting it from the beginning and skipping all the way to the end and trying to play it again led to it freezing in the exact same spot. So it might be an issue with that spot. What if I... Ooh, did it work? I skipped forward a little bit and it worked. Okay, so we didn't get to hear his finals. I think that they give a slightly cliche but effective description from him, his perspective on dying. And even if it's accurate, nobody knows. But it's effective in that the lasting message of the movie is do what the fuck you want to do with your life. Because you're gonna die someday, and it could be suddenly. It could be today. It could be on the best day of your life. Unexpectedly. You could get shot by your daughter's boyfriend's dad because of a total misunderstanding. Now, when she's freaking out here, did she come in and see him dead? Does she know he's dead? Or did she just come in the garage and start freaking out?
I guess I could be pretty pissed off about what happened to me. But it's hard to stay mad when there's so much beauty in the world. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing it all at once, and it's too much. My heart fills up like a balloon.
Now he's
Burst.
quoting what Ricky said earlier.
Then I remember to relax and stop trying to hold on to it. And then it flows through me like rain. And I can't feel anything but gratitude
God, what a
for every
fucking
single moment
brilliant movie.
of my life. You have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm sure. But don't worry. You will someday.
There it is. Directed by Sam Mendes. Written by Alan Ball. There you have it. Earlier I said I didn't know that, and now I do. My screen keeps flashing like from dark black to like a lighter black when the text is on. That's weird. So we made it past that little issue so we could watch fucking 30 more seconds of the movie. Sorry for that hiccup. I don't know what much more I could say. That is a glimpse into how the American dream, so to speak, can go wrong. The picket fence, the wife, the kid, the quote good job, and then you're on the fast track to dying. And yeah, just not being resigned to your current role if it doesn't satisfy you, and to go out there and get it. And that is not to say to ignore your responsibilities. I don't encourage that at all. If part of your fucking dream for making your life perfect is leaving your family high and dry, you can go fuck yourself. Like, that's not okay. You don't just get to ditch out on your kids because you're unhappy. Like, that's a responsibility you don't get to evade, but within reason. If you could get a job you like better, maybe make a little less money, but you'd be happier, fucking do it if that's what you want to do. If you want to start working out, you want to start eating, like, you want to look good naked, ask your gay neighbors what kind of a routine you need to do, and then fucking do it. And I guess I don't have much more to say about it than that. So I quit, so you don't have to pay me. Now leave me alone. You can find me on, as I've kind of stated previously, YouTube. The podcast is on SoundCloud and Spotify. I'm on Instagram sporadically, Facebook. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit. Tell me what you want to watch next. And until the next time, this is Devin signing off and saying, be easy.